Hello there, my name's Neil David and I'm the host of Eurograps Express, the podcast exclusively dedicated to the wrestling of Europe. If it's wrestling and it happens in Europe and it's good, we talk about it. Whether it's RevPro, Progress, WXW, Passion Pro, Pro Wrestling Chaos, Pro Wrestling North, we don't care, we talk about them all. If it's good and it's exciting, I want to share it with you. We're on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Check us out on the feed. Check us out on Twitter at EuroGrapsEXP. And join us for chat about European wrestling and a little bit of chat about cheese. Hopefully see you there.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me. We
are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if two people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Welcome to Jumping Bomb Audio.
Welcome back to Jumping Bomb Audio, the #1 show all about the world of Joshi Pro Wrestling. My name is Taylor, and I am joined once again, cruelly separated by the constraints of space and time, by my co-host, with my co-host, Kelly. Kelly, hello again.
Hello, Taylor, I have news.
Oh, go ahead.
Toy Fair Nolans has been canceled. They're staying in New York. So you're going to have to deal with me once a year, not next year, but once a year after that, every year forever.
The planets are aligning for Jumping Bomb Audio.
Yep.
Truly things are happening. That's very funny. Did they just decide New York is such a great town that they couldn't bear to leave?
Apparently in like the post-show like questionnaire they give out to everyone, a lot of people were like, no, I ain't going to fucking New Orleans. You're staying here in New York. And then they had to write an open letter to everyone to be like, okay, we heard you. We're staying in New York.
Amazing. So anyone who listened and thought, oh, we might never ever get this opportunity again, I'm happy to tell you.
You will.
In 2 years' time.
In 2 years.
In 2 years' time, when this podcast is definitely still happening and is even more successful than ever.
Yep.
Although we might say this podcast before 2 years will become so successful that we'll be able to fly our private jets to each other every 2 weeks to record. So that could happen.
Yeah, once we're on like the Joe Rogan network or whatever the fuck.
Don't put that out there. I don't want to be on the Joe Rogan network.
Jamie, look it up. See if we got a Joe Rogan network.
I mean, isn't he on? I mean, he's on Spotify, but
yeah, but he'll like own Spotify soon.
Oh God,
because Spotify will be like, shit, man, you're right. There are little robots in our blood.
Well, let's talk about something a little bit more positive, which is Joshi Wrestling. We've got a lot to talk about on this episode. We've got Tokyo Joshi's Wrestle Princess 4 to talk about. We've got Stardom, Nagoya Golden Fight to talk about, and much more. We got some big previews coming up at Tokyo Joshi Korakuen Hall show. Oz Academy's big yearly show coming up with a lot of fun matches on that show. Before we get into it, of course, we got to do the plugs. Follow us on Twitter at JBombAudio. You can follow Kelly at Comic Geek Kelly, and you can follow me at Taymambo. Subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice, and if that app of choice happens to be Apple Podcasts, we would really appreciate a 5-star rating and review. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can donate to the show at redcircle.com/shows/jumping-bomb-audio. So let's get right into it with the first show. We are going to dive in deep. Tokyo Joshi's 4th edition of Wrestle Princess 4 from October 9th at Tamamirai Messe in front of 868 fans. Kelly, what did you think about the show overall?
I thought it was a pretty solid show. Not their best as far as like these big shows go, but it was still a good time. Honestly, that number is lower than I thought it was going to be. I thought the crowd looked pretty good.
I mean, I think they made the correct decision to move one of their bigger shows, out of this sort of like 7,000 seat venues they had been running where they draw 1,000 people and the sound gets swallowed up into the ether. I was very much more happy to see it in an appropriately sized venue. The crowd felt, to me, hot all night, which was a big part of my enjoyment of the show, but certainly a sort of quasi-concerning number. It is the lowest, with the caveat that the first Wrestle Princess occurred at the sort of height of COVID, that it is their lowest attended Wrestle Princess of all time. The second one drew, I think, 914 fans, and the third one drew 1,007 fans. So about 150 less fans for this edition of Wrestle Princess. And I think that is something we will get into further when we talk about the main event and the result of the main event, which I think lends a lot to things we've talked about on this show before, in terms of Tokyo Joshi and their booking decisions that they make. But before we do that, let's dive into the rest of the show. The opening match of the show, a singles match between the two youngest competitors on the Tokyo Joshi roster. Runa Okuba defeating Haru Karashiro in 5 minutes and 16 seconds. Kelly, what did you think about this opening contest?
I thought the children did very well here. They both kind of looked a lot smoother than they have in the past, and their submission games are getting upped a little bit. So they're still working at it, and they're progressing well. I enjoyed this. I went 3 1/4.
I also thought it was a very solid match. Nothing crazy out of the ordinary, but very good between two very young and still fairly inexperienced wrestlers. Have to give a shout out to Runa's theme, which I think is a bop. Great theme song. And I think that the result with Runa defeating Haru is sort of the, maybe not pecking order is the wrong word, but sort of, as I was watching, I was thinking, Runa is ahead of Haru right now in terms of being comfortable in the ring, sort of feeling a little bit more like an experienced wrestler. And then, of course, she won the match. And so clearly that's what Tokyo Joshi seems to see as well. I think both of them have been very solidly left behind by Toga, who's sort of, I think of the three of them sort of together. And I think Toga has, jumped up quite a bit. Obviously not as young as them, but I thought
it also helps that she's not like a full child.
Yeah. But again, a very solid match. Certainly not a match I would have predicted they would have been able to have based on that first outing a number of months ago, but very solid. And if this is sort of the thing that they do here for the next little while, I think that's pretty good. You know, I wasn't sitting there at any point thinking, oh my God, like, oof, I have to, you can get with some younger wrestlers sort of, you might think, they're not even good enough to do this. But I thought they were both very solid. Even Haru, who's a little behind, I think is still very, a very passable wrestler at this point, which for 15 years old is great at this point. She's way ahead of the curve of 98% of other wrestlers.
Yeah, for sure. I just thought of a good meme, a political related meme. You've seen you've seen the what's that guy, George Santos? You've seen the picture of him with the baby.
I have no. What?
Okay, well, I think that's his name.
Yeah, I know who George Santos is, but I have not seen a picture of him with a baby.
There's a picture of him like walking out of someone's office with a baby, and like a reporter asked him like, "Oh, is that your son, or is that your baby?" And he goes, "Not yet." And so I want yeah.
How is this related to what we're talking about?
Here we go. I want to put Hyper Misao's face on George Santos' face, and then Runa's face on the baby, and then someone asks, "Is this your kid?" And she's like, "Not yet."
Oh, okay.
Because she would tag with the children.
If anyone wants to do that, they can send that image to Kelly on Twitter at Comic Geek Kelly.
Yeah, send me memes.
For that very complicated explanation of a meme. The next match on the show was a 6-person tag team match. The Tokyo Joshi trio of Arisa Endo, Himawari, and Kaya Toribami defeating Harukaze Riara and Yoshiko Hasegawa in 12 minutes and 7 seconds. I thought this was a fun match. Thought everyone had some chance to shine. And I think that they should book the Gambari wrestlers more, because I think they sort of do it on these big shows, and I don't really understand like why they don't do it on Korakuen shows or things like that. Because I think they sort of give a fun wrinkle. It makes your roster a little bit bigger, that you can sort of have these. If they wouldn't have been here, the other option would have been, I know that she's out at the moment, but it would have been like Haruna Neko, which is like, oh, that's fine, but someone we've seen do this sort of match 10,000 times. And so I think this adds a little bit of a nice twist.
Yeah, and like the Ganjo team being like invaders adds a little bit of juice to the matches too. Like they all worked a little bit harder because of that. And Endo turns back the invaders, gets a strong looking win with her brutal looking camel clutch, which I'd still say might be one of the best ever in the business. Really good tag. I went 3.5.
I also thought it was the best. I've seen a bunch of Harukaze matches. I thought this was the best that she's ever looked.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know if it was specifically, I don't have any specific thing to point to, but I was sort of watching being like, oh, like someone you've seen a lot. You're like, oh, they're coming back in. Okay, I'm watching them again. I sort of know what to expect, and I was sort of pleasantly surprised because I very much enjoyed her work in this match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought all three of the Ganjo wrestlers came off really well.
The next match was a singles match. The Karate Kids explode as Moka Miyamoto defeated Juria Nagano in 6 minutes and 28 seconds. My first note on this match, we didn't do it, fam.
No new gear.
We didn't do it. I don't know, and now I feel like I'm getting Stockholm syndromed, because Mocha came out and I was like, oh, it's not new gear. But then I was looking at the gear and I was sort of like, I guess the gear does look better. But in my brain, I was like, no, you're just saying that because you're justifying
Yeah.
the fact that she didn't get new gear.
Yeah, it does not look any better.
And it's one of those, it's just so bizarre because now she started doing this like psycho mocha character more where she just like stands in the ring with a scowl on her face. And I'm like, she needs some gear for that. Like, that's a different energy than person who comes to the ring in like a thick skirt.
Yeah.
And then the finish, the like twisting brainbuster suplex thing. I'm like, this whole energy is very different here.
Yeah, that new finisher looks good. I like it.
Yeah. I also enjoyed the karate chop exchange that they had, sort of the play on like the strike exchange in the middle of the ring, but instead doing karate chops, which I
Yeah,
thought
that
was
was
fun.
good.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the match, Kelly?
I kind of feel like Juria might be starting to stagnate. Like, I feel I haven't had that kind of like, oh my god, look how good she is moment in a while, where now it's just like, yeah, she's just as good as she was the last time I saw her every time. And it doesn't feel like she's improving anymore, which is kind of worrisome.
She still feels like she hasn't, as we've talked about with some other people on the roster from time to time. I'm trying to think of like the last person we talked about this with, but still hasn't felt like, I guess Yuki Arai is one. That would be one of someone who sort of has their um, bits that they do, like the thing, like the finish where she's moving her arms all around.
Yeah.
And she does that a lot in some other moves, and she's doing the kicks. So it feels like she has the moment to moment things she needs to do, but there's still no sort of connective tissue to anything.
Right.
It's sort of like, this is the portion of the match where I do my this type of kick. And then the match is sort of like, oh, nothing's really happening. Oh, and now I'm doing my finish where I go, Um, so it just feels like she hasn't developed the full style. It still feels like she's sort of stuck in the, here's what we initially had with you. And it's just like, oh, she's just going out and doing those 4 or 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
And then her opponent is sort of filling in the gaps.
Pretty
of
much, yeah.
What needs to happen. So I sort of get it. It does seem, I mean, she lost this match. And I know that she was out injured for a while, which also didn't help. But it does seem like they're sort of slow rolling her. Of course, the fear now is she turns into like a Kaya Toribami, who's very talented and sort of has put it together, but I think took so long that now she's sort of stuck in this fill-in role of like, oh, we have 5 people for this tag. Oh, we need 6 people. Okay, it's going to be Kaya. Because she like fills it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, she has to go one way or the other, where she's either going to be this really solid undercard wrestler or someone they actually have something with, where it's like, oh, she's progressed into being a viable main event wrestler.
Yeah, and I think probably being injured didn't help because that
No.
probably would have been the time where she would have been doing that. And now part of her coming back is sort of being like, hey, I need to get back into the rhythm of like just doing this. Because it isn't like she was a 15-year veteran where it's like, oh, I got injured. Okay, I have to come back, knock off the ring rust, and just get back in there. It's like she was still sort of learning.
Yeah.
So now you've been out, you may have, so now you take sort of a step back and you have to figure out first how to get back to the point you were before you're thinking about, okay, what else do I need to do to really, you know, evolve.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I haven't lost hope. I understand what you're saying. I'm sort of less worried about it, especially because, as we'll talk about in the main event, sort of the top of the card is becoming jammed with people who could move up and haven't. So I think being like, oh, let's rush and get her up there to sort of do what?
Yeah, exactly. I don't feel like we should rush, but it's just like I say, it didn't feel like she's starting to improve yet. It's just kind of like, oh, she's as good as she's always been.
Although I'll say she does have a title match on the next big show. So maybe they are doing that. But yeah, so I think we're sort of on the same page there. The next match was another 6-person tag team match. Aja Kong returned to Tokyo Joshi to tag with Raku and Shino Suzuki to defeat Hyper Masao, Toga, and Wakana Uehara. Kelly, what'd you think of this one?
Jesus Christ, Kong killed Uehara with that fucking suplex to close out the match. Like that was my big takeaway. Like that made me jump. Like that was woof, that was rough. I'm glad Uehara was all right after that. But I will say I did feel like Toga was kind of lacking in her interactions with Kong. I was hoping for a little bit more out of that. But other than that, this was a lot of fun.
I mean, I thought Aja obliterated both Toga and Wakana at different moments and then killed Uehara with the
Yes.
finish. Although you could sort of tell as they were setting it up, they were like, okay, be in this exact position and do not move from this position or you will be injured when I give you this. Like, the setup was so deliberate. It was like, okay, do this. And then she was just like, boom, and I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I was very excited. They seemed to felt like to me, they sort of gave Uehara got the shine in this one. It felt like she really felt like a featured part of the match. And I thought of it less as like, oh, Toga under delivered. I thought Toga was fine, but I thought Uehara really was the sort of star of the match. And I was like, oh, do they really like maybe have something with her? She seemed very, went with Aja, did all this stuff, took the finish, like just felt like a big deal for someone who is in that sort of quote unquote rookie, that big rookie class, even though she's sort of in her own world from the Dream on the Ring stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Uehara I feel has really stepped up. I'm becoming more and more impressed with her.
It was funny because, it sort of started comedic. It's a Hyper Masao match at a big show. I was thinking, okay, you have Aja Kong and Raku teaming together. I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a sort of goofy match, the sort of typical Hyper Masao, but also the stuff with Raku and Aja, and everyone else is rookies or very young wrestlers. And then it really wasn't that for most of the match.
Mm-hmm.
I did write at this point, and I should have held off writing this for a later match, which is Tokyo Joshi a more serious sports-based promotion than AEW? Because I'm like between this and then some matches coming up, I'm like, there's less comedy on this show than there is on an AEW show.
Yeah.
Which is funny to think about. I'm like, there was very little comedy. There was the Honda part, which, the Honda sections, which we'll talk about. There was a little bit at the beginning of this match. But other than that, it was
I guess
a
there
serious
was
show.
some in the Max the Impaler Rika Tatsumi match, but not much.
But that's sort of like, oh, she's so big.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so used to like Tokyo Joshi shows where they're like, oh, here it's a big match and we're riding a bicycle around the ring. Like, there was really none of that. So yeah, just something funny I thought of as I was watching.
Yeah, no, that's you got something there.
It was announced before the next match that Saki Akai's retirement match will be, I believe it had been announced prior to the show, in DDT, but on November 12th, Saki Akai will be having her retirement match. That's a 6-person tag, Miyu Yamashita will be in that match on the opposing side from Saki Akai. They also mentioned on that show there will be, I believe that's Ultimate Party, DDT Ultimate Party.
Yes, I think so.
There will also be a Tokyo Joshi offer match, I guess if you want to call it a Tokyo Joshi match. Yuki Arai, Moka Miyamoto, and Shino Suzuki versus Suzume, Ariso Endo, and Wakana Uehara. A bit of a surprising roster of wrestlers there.
Yeah,
You know,
it feels like they're trying to get some of the younger wrestlers in front of these different eyes, and like, hey, these are going to be the people going forward.
because that would usually be the spot for like Shoko Nakajima and Miyu, who obviously is in the match with Saki Akai, but sort
Yeah.
of that level. And I'm sort of
Mizuki,
excited to
Yuka.
to see these wrestlers go out and try and impress. I think that's sort of a fun thing, and it's fun to see sort of people you don't expect. It isn't the same thing. Okay, I know what these people can do. I think it's a fun group, and I'm looking forward to watching that match.
Mm-hmm.
The next match was a tag team match. The duo of Miyu Watanabe and Yuki Arai defeating Ryo Mizunami and Yuki Aino in 13 minutes and 10 seconds. Kelly, I don't know what you thought about this match, but this was my favorite match on the show,
Wow.
and I loved it. I thought it was amazing.
It was really good. My first note reads, "Get those fake ass passion injection matches the fuck out of my face." Aniki is the true
yeah.
passion injector.
Yeah. I mean, she came out, first of all, even before the match started, with so much energy, and the crowd was like, oh, yeah, let's go. So it was already like, okay, there's energy to this. But then they just spent the whole match, or nearly the whole match, just trying to obliterate each other.
It was so good.
And I think Chris Book said, I think it was during this match, he's like, it's very funny for a promotion that's about, a large part of it is like, oh, isn't this cute? Oh, we're cute. Oh, we love, Mi Watanabe comes out and does the LOVE things. And then they just come in and they beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird, but I, thought this ruled. Yuki Aino deadlifting Yuki Arai, all over the place. I thought was great. There was a great Rio and Yuki Arai strike exchange that I really loved. And it was just like fighting. It was just like fighting. I was like, they just went in and they're like, we're going to fight. Here we go. And then after the match, Miyu laughing at Mizunami as she pushed her off and she's like, ha ha ha. I was like, whoa, this is wild. I went 4.5 stars.
I was 4.25 on it. I loved it. I thought it was great. Aino and Mizunami were just perfect as the stronger antagonists in this match to Miyu and Arai. And Arai needed a match like this. This was exactly what she needed to have some passion injected. She showed some fucking real fire here. This might be the best she's ever looked, I think. Just awesome match.
Yeah, I thought I thought it was the best she'd ever looked. And she's had a couple, because she had the match a little while ago that I was like, oh, she looks, I think I said the same thing. I was like, this is the best she's ever looked. And now here's another one.
Yep.
Where I'm like, oh, this is the best she's ever looked. So that's great, because it means she's improving, match over match, which is really great. And yeah, it just, I almost, and I almost never do this. This show happened obviously a week ago. And I watched it. I didn't watch it live, but I watched it pretty close. I think I watched it the next day. And I almost went back before we recorded and like rewatched it, which is something I almost never do. Just because I was like, yeah, I want to like watch it again. Like, give me that energy of like, you're just sitting and you're like, yeah, let's go.
Mizunami has
so I
been
thought,
so valuable to the Tokyo Joshi roster.
yeah, she has been, I don't know if she would really qualify. I mean, there's really no, we're just making this up, but she doesn't appear that often. So it's sort of hard to be like, she's the MVP of the company when you're like, oh, she's only appeared, 6 times or something. But every time she appears, you're like, something good happens. And I think it's sort of the opposite of someone we'll talk about coming up, which is like bringing in an AEW wrestler for one show where there's like no story. They're just coming. They're like, sure, I'll do this match. I'll, go. I'll have fun. Where like Mizunami feels like she's trying to like prove something every time she's wrestling in Tokyo Joshi.
Yeah, it really feels like she's trying to bring something out of her opponents.
So I hope she keeps coming back, and I also hope that Tokyo Joshi can find more people. They are very sort of cordoned off in their own world. Obviously Aja Kong appears on almost all these big shows. They have Mizunami, but I think there's probably other people, especially with Saki-sama leaving, where you could probably bring in I'm not saying you have to bring in 15 people who don't wrestle in the company, but 1 or 2 more I think would provide some sort of fun matches and give people like Arai and Miyu who aren't wrestling at the top of the card for these shows something to do and something to like learn from, and not just be stuck in a tag where you're like, sure, we'll go out for 8 minutes and we'll just wrestle each other and nothing will come of it.
Yeah, bring in fucking Sari. Have her give us a singles match between her and Miyu.
I don't think Sari is going to come in because she, I think, is on the record as hating idol wrestling.
Well, good. Then even better. Even better. Bring her in then.
Just to try and destroy the company.
Yeah, work a whole fucking story around that. That'd be so good. That's even better. I think even more they need to bring her in now.
But yeah, great match. Go out of your way, I would say, to watch that if you haven't watched the show yet.
Absolutely.
After this match, it was announced that Regina, a wrestler from Fight Club Finland, who weighs 105 kilograms, I believe, was the information that we were given in the VTR, will be coming to Tokyo Joshi. We will talk about Regina shortly because she is doing the classic come to Japan and get an immediate title shot. So we will talk about her shortly. I don't know anything about Regina. Kelly, had you ever heard of Regina before?
Never heard of her.
This video?
Nope.
I had not either. I will have to look up more information about her. I didn't even know that there was really a wrestling scene in Finland.
No.
So you learn something new every day.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll learn there's a whole great world of wrestling in Finland.
The next match was the Neo Bishiki Gun farewell match, I guess we'll call it now. After the events, after the match, the Neo Bishiki Gun quartet of Martha, May San Michel, Saki-sama, and Yukio Saint Laurent defeating Antonio Honda, Palm Harajuku, Shoko Nakajima, and Suzume in 14 minutes and 45 seconds. Kelly, what'd you think of this big match here?
We're all beautiful Bashiki babies. That was my big takeaway from this match, and it's something I'm gonna look in the mirror every day and say that to myself and try and trudge along.
Yeah, I promised to Saki-sama that Kelly and I will continue the mission of spreading beauty throughout the world.
Yeah, we sure will.
Something that the two of us are very good at doing.
Yep.
I thought this match, it was
exactly what it needed to be.
yes, it
They
was what it
played the
needed to
hits.
be. Yeah. Yukio Saint Laurent and Palm Harajuku, of course, the battle of the ages. I did enjoy that no one except for Yukio was actually looking at Antonio Honda for the Gone the Fox story, and then randomly turned back to look at him so he could poke them in the eyes. But I have to say, a lot of this is sort of focused on the post match of Neo Bushiki-gun saying that they will be going. I guess they are abroad because they're French,
Yeah.
but going abroad, not to Japan anymore, to continue spreading uh, beauty to the world. And I have to say that watching, I was getting a little bit, I was getting a little bit sad.
Yeah, no, I was too.
It was sort of like hitting me in that moment of, with so many changes in the way that Tokyo Joshi has sort of evolved in the last 3 years or so, thinking, oh, this sort of team that has been very consistent and been here for many years and had many great characters. I mean, you think of, Misao in Neo Bushiki-gun for that period of time, or the other, characters that have come in. It's been a staple of the promotion, and I don't really know what is the replacement for the, thinking of the next big show, which is going to be in March. Sort of what is there something that will happen to sort of replace this legendary unit in the company?
Yeah, I don't know. They're gonna be missed. It's an act I really enjoy, and I was kind of hoping they'd find a way to keep it around, but
I was
yeah,
sort of partially hoping that they would name May Saint Michel sort of the leader, or
yeah,
get someone else. I don't know who that would be, but get a I don't know, I can't think of anyone right now, but like Toga Sama or something. Not that
something.
that would
Yeah,
be it. Um, on an unrelated note, I hope that Tokyo Joshi, speaking of bringing in people like Ryo Mizunami, I hope that Tokyo Joshi starts bringing in Mei Saruga.
that would be cool.
Yeah.
I wonder why they haven't.
Totally. Well, they did. She was on the
Yeah,
first
that's
Wrestle
true.
Princess.
Yeah, that's right. She was.
So I hope that they bring her in. And I hope one day we get to see Martha and Yukio Saint Laurent and all the rest of them.
And she worked a DDT show recently that I keep meaning to watch, and I keep forgetting about, where it was like a road to Saki's retirement match where she was in a trios match opposite of Saki's team. It sounded really good, and I just kept forgetting to get around to it.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed, but a sad au revoir to Neo Bushiki-gun. Hopefully,
Yeah.
just for now.
Hopefully, I would love for them to pay us a visit every now and then.
Before the next match, a lot of announcements on the show. It was announced some of the early 2024 shows, of course. Tokyo Joshi will have their traditional January 4th Korakuen Hall show, which was just recently announced being counter-programmed by Stardom, who will be having their own January 4th show before Wrestle Kingdom. Also announced.
Fuck you, Rossi. I'm gonna shit in your hat.
Also announced during that period. That means there will be no Stardom on Wrestle Kingdom proper. But we'll get to that.
I did like that Kadani like apologized to whoever was there with him at that moment. Like, oh, sorry about that, guys.
Anyway, what else is going on? They will be having, of course, the Max Heart Tag Tournament. They have Korakuen on February 10th, and then the big show, Grand Princess 24, on March 31st at Ryogoku Sumo Hall.
I think I'm going to go to that.
The next big show. Oh, Kelly may be giving in a live report.
Yeah, like within seconds of them making that announcement, I was like, fuck, you know what? The next time I wanted to go to Japan, I wanted to kind of center it around a sumo hall show, because when we stayed around that neighborhood back in 2019, I really loved that area of Tokyo. So I was like, shit, I want to kind of just, I'll probably grab a hotel at the sumo hall hotel across the street. And then I was like, they announced that, and within seconds I was looking at flights.
Wow, they got Kelly.
Yeah,
So maybe we will have some live reporting there.
maybe.
We'll have to do some creative time management to record a podcast 13 hours
Yeah.
separated. But yeah, exciting. Good to see that they're still doing the big shows, and of course they have the Korikens, which are tradition. The next match was a singles match and our last non-title match of the evening. Nyla Rose defeating Maki Ito in 12 minutes and 20 seconds. I thought that this match was just fine. Just felt sort of like standard action. Nyla, of course, winning, AEW winning. But just felt like sort of a purposeless match to me.
Yeah.
Ito at this point sort of has started to feel disconnected from a lot of Tokyo Joshi, as she's in America so often now that it just sort of feels like someone who has one foot out the door in some ways. And with Nyla Rose, who is good but really has no Tokyo Joshi connection, really. You know, she had the match with Miyu, but it just sort of felt heatless. It didn't really grab me in any way, so was just sort of fine.
Yeah, not a great match to come back from intermission with.
Yeah, and I think yeah.
Ideally, I probably would have swapped the placement of this match and the passion injection tag.
Yeah, or done them, you know, maybe the Neo Bashiki-gun match would have been good here.
I
but
feel like that you need to go to intermission after the Neobashiki-gun.
yeah,
match,
I guess because
everyone.
people are crying.
Yeah, can I go have a good cry in the bathroom?
But really not much more to say about that match, really.
Nah, it happened. I'll never think about it again.
The next match was for the Princess Tag Team titles, which were vacant. The duo of free Wi-Fi, Kari Noah and Naoka Kuda, defeating the Toyo Mates, Mahiro Kiryu and Yuki Kamafuku in 13 minutes and 37 seconds. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was just sound, hard-hitting pro wrestling. The crowd was really into it, as they were most things all night and with the streamers. And I just thought it was a very good match. I'm very glad, once again, to say those many months ago where I
What the hell?
made my final decision on Mahiro Kiryu, and once again, I'm proven that I went the right way. Because I thought she was good in this match.
Yeah, no, I thought Mahiro looked really good here. I'm just a lot of the match was kind of a blur for me because it was just the flash of joy when I was like, oh my god, free Wi-Fi finally did it. The girlhood dreams have come true.
I mean, and also exciting to just see two new, not new teams, but sort of new teams to the scene facing off, knowing someone's going to win the titles for the first time. It's like sort of an exciting thing, and it's an exciting. I think the division is sort of exciting because the teams that have held the titles for so long in that division have all cleared out now.
Yeah, they're pretty much just slowly phasing themselves out.
Yuka is gone. Yuki Aino, of course, is by herself now. Neo Bashiki-gun is leaving. So it really is an opportunity to get some of these people who are sort of sitting on the upper mid-card, maybe mid-card, and have them do this, and I thought this was, I mean, I went 4 stars. I thought it was a very enjoyable, fun match.
Yeah, I didn't go that high, but I really enjoyed it. I was at 3.5, I think. Yeah. Also, in my notes, for some reason, I called them the Toyo Pals instead of mates, and I kind of like that more.
Kelly, you can call them whatever you want.
Hell yeah.
I was about to say
Hell
call
yeah,
them
I'm gonna
whatever you
call
want. Just
Taylor
don't call
said
them
I can say whatever I want.
Just don't call them late for dinner. Okay. I said it. It was in my brain and I had to get it out. Or else I would have been thinking about it the rest of the episode. So yeah, good match, new champions, and very exciting. The semi-main event of the show was a double title match for both the International Princess title and the very prestigious NWA World Women's Television title. Max the Impaler, representing the NWA, defeating Rika Tatsumi to become double champion in 15 minutes and 19 seconds. Kelly, what were your thoughts on this match? I thought a match we both thought was going to have a sort of schmaz finish. To keep the titles on both people. That didn't happen.
I was surprised to see Billy come out victorious here and bring more gold to the NWA. I thought the match was good. It was a little slower paced than I would have liked, but it was cool to see a definitive winner. And I thought it was kind of an interesting take on the David versus Goliath match because Goliath won. I ended up going 3 3/4 on it.
I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was worked really well because I thought they had a good sort of back and forth and momentum, which made sense without making it seem. Sometimes when you sort of have a big, it's like, oh, this wrestler is really big, this wrestler is really small. It just partway through the match, they're just like, oh, we're gonna just ignore this, and they're gonna have an even match. But it never felt like it was just sort of them saying, oh, okay, this is the time when Rika has to be, sort of taking over the match because that's the way the match works. It felt very logical. And I wrote in my notes, you could probably argue, is Rika the sort of in-ring, the best worker in Tokyo Joshi? She's probably up there. I don't know if she's the number one. Mizuki, very good.
Yeah, she's up there for sure.
Miyu, very good. But I think that she is the smartest
I can see that
worker in Tokyo Joshi. I just think she works very much in the same way that like someone like Tanahashi would work, in terms of they sort of, and Rika has that same sort of heel side, even though she isn't a heel. She sort of has that ability, early in the match she was choking Max, but it sort of feels all like logical to what is happening. And I just thought, oh, this is really like smart work, well worked. I went 4.25 stars, so I thought it was very good. I just thought it was really well worked. I was shocked a bit by the result of Max becoming double champion, which also got me, but I just thought it was a really good, fun match, good match, well worked, made both of them look good. It didn't look at the end like Rika had just been squashed by this very much larger wrestler than her. So overall, I really enjoyed it, and I was vibing with the show at this point.
Yeah.
The main event for the Princess of Princess title saw the challenger Miyu Yamashita defeat the champion Mizuki in 21 minutes and 24 seconds to make it a, technically, clean sweep of title changes.
Yeah.
On the show, though one was a vacant title and one was a double title, but
still counts.
Still counts. 3 title changes, 3 out of 3. Kelly, I'm fascinated to know what you thought of this match. I will start by saying I was spoiled on the result.
Oh, that sucks. I was not spoiled.
I was spoiled. I went to Kelly and I said, Kelly, don't go to this location because you will be spoiled. It was a location that I had not expected to be spoiled in. So I had told Kelly to not go there. And I enjoy this match, but I think being spoiled certainly probably hindered a little bit of my enjoyment of the match, as well as the result itself. But Kelly, I'm interested to know what you thought.
Yeah, I do really question the booking here, but I thought the match was fantastic. I went 4 3/4 on this. I loved it. I thought it was easily the match of the night. I thought there was a great just escalation to the match with just everything. The hits getting harder as the match went on, the bumps getting wilder. I love there was a bit in like the second half of the match where the crowd just kind of fell silent and you could hear every strike. Like I love moments like that, and it was perfect here. I don't know. I don't really care for giving Miyu the title here, but I do think it was a fantastic match for Mizuki's run to end on. So I guess I don't know. Someone's yelling outside my house. What the hell?
I thought I heard something going on, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
That
they want to give their take on this
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
They need to let us know what they thought of the show. So, as I said, I was spoiled, disappointed by the result. I still thought it was very good. I went 4 1/4. I will say it is currently, and this also sort of feels like a broken record now with Tokyo Joshi. It is now the highest rated Tokyo Joshi match of all time. On cage match, I should say. It's funny because I looked at that on cage match and something of like out of the top 100 rated Tokyo Joshi matches, like 92 of them have happened in the last 3 years.
It's wild, yeah.
Some insane thing, but you look at like the top 5, and the top 5 are all like the 5 most recent shows, which is pretty crazy. I enjoy the action, but my thing is, and this goes back to, they got 868 people in the building, the lowest, quote unquote, Wrestle Princess attendance. And I think that now we have gotten to the point where it's sort of a chicken or egg sort of thing, where it's very clear to me that they are petrified to run a big event without the safety blanket of Yuka, Shoko, Miyu.
Mm-hmm.
And, go back to their big shows. I mean, is there a single big show? I would have to look that doesn't have one of those 3 people in it.
Yeah, I don't think
And
there is.
if there is, there's not that many. But I think at this point, we are getting to the point where it's sort of like, well, Miyu was in this match. The show only drew 870 people, rounding up. So is it now a point where people are saying, well, Miyu's just going to get it back again. Oh, there's a big show coming up. It's got to go back on, such and such person. It's got to go back on Miyu. It's got to go back on Shoko. Like, March 31st, are we going to be seeing Miyu versus Shoko Nakajima? There's a very good chance we might see that.
Yeah.
Like a match we've seen many times. And I think it's sort of like, well, what is causing the lower attendances? Is it that people only want to see these 3 people? Or is it that people know that they're only ever going to see these 3 people? Like, my sort of canon was, this was the match that would have solidified Mizuki on that level. To be like, great, Yuka's not here anymore. I've beaten some people and now I need to beat Miyu. And it's like, well, you've wrestled some other people, good for you, good job, good try. oh, but you can't actually beat the people who are most important in the company. You know, you can't
we
beat
got a quick outside Kelly's house update.
Oh, okay.
A small child has tipped over their scooter and is sitting on my lawn crying.
Great. They're equally as unhappy with this booking.
She is holding her knee and is very upset. Where's their parents?
Anyway, where was I?
God damn it. Doesn't she know I'm recording a podcast?
Well, now I can't hear her. I'm not hearing anything. So
She's getting quieter. I think she's realized her parents can't hear. Oh, someone's running. Someone's running over to her. There's an adult. He is consoling the child. All right, we're good. We're good, everybody.
Okay.
Back to the show.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, is this just gonna be? It was like, oh, great, finally, they put the title on Mizuki. It's like, great, they did the next step, and now they're like, oh no, we'll just go back. Like one step forward, two steps back, of just being like, okay, we're just gonna do the same thing that we always do. And it's like, do people want to see this? And also, does the talent look at this and be like, you know, if I'm Miyu Watanabe, I'm looking over at Stardom and seeing Mirai, who hadn't done anything. Now she was a bit younger and, you know, had less time in the company, but to look over and be like, this was a person who was sitting in the mid card and is now being mega pushed in Stardom.
Yeah.
And here I am having great matches. The crowd really likes me. And yet, will I get a title shot? And if I win the title, am I going to hold it for 3 months until I just drop it to the people that they want me to, you know, drop it to? So it just feels frustrating to me because it feels safe for no reason. If Miyu had been on the top of this card and they were like, oh, and we drew 1,200 people and it's getting better and better because, you know, then they could point and say, oh, you know, we drew 1,200. Miyu was on top. That's why we have to put the title back on her because she's the draw. But it's like, no, you only drew 870 people. It's not like you're blowing. It's also a thing where it's like, you're not exactly lighting the world on fire attendance wise. Why not take, like, that's a time when it's easier to take a chance. Like, if you're getting 870 people, you take a chance, and then the next show you draw 775, you may say, okay, we made the wrong decision. But it's not the same as, oh, we're drawing 2,500 people and we put this title on someone and now we're drawing 900. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's very. It feels short-sighted to move the belt to Miyu.
And it just also feels like, what's the like? Miyu has the title. She's constantly being like, "I'm going to America." Bye. Like, okay,
yeah, it's
I'm
almost
out,
as if
here.
they're like, well, we're going to use her to put someone over before she goes.
I don't know, and maybe, you know, maybe the March 31st match is Miyu Watanabe versus Miyu Yamashita, and Miyu Watanabe wins, and it's like, oh, they just didn't want to beat Mizuki with Miyu. But I don't know. But I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why is that? You're fine beating her with Miyu Yamashita. Why not? You know, to me, I think if Watanabe has not held the title before the end of 2024, I think that they've made a mistake.
Definitely.
And it's going to be a mistake more and more as Stardom sort of sucks up a lot of the energy of Joshi that may start costing them like people. Like they've Unagi left, you know, Mina left, Mirai left, and they have all, you know, not Unagi, but Mina has been pretty successful in Stardom. Mirai has been very successful in Stardom. And I'm sure there may be people who look over and are like, wait a minute. And I'm going to sit here for 3 years and wait for you to be exactly, perfectly comfortable putting the title on me. Like, oh, it has to be the exact, like, you got to take a chance. You have to take a chance sometime. And just running the same, now you don't even have Yuka. So it's not even like, you know, it's like Miyu. Shoko, maybe Rika, Miyu, Shoko. It's like you gotta
And they
have someone
missed
else, and you have the talent.
and they missed their chance to do something with Maki Ito because she's pretty much gone.
Well, yeah, I think that she should have won the title.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the logical progression would have been Maki beats Miyu, Mizuki beats Maki.
Yeah.
Like, that's the logical progression, because now you're right. It's like, well, why put it on Maki now? She's 1 foot out the door, and it feels like that moment has passed. Like, that's the other thing. You're like, oh, well, we won't put it on her. We don't know if she'll draw. We don't. And now it's like, well, now you definitely don't want to do it.
Right.
Like, you blew that. So, I don't know. It's just this frustrating thing of like, great, they're having much better matches. I'm enjoying the show. I still really enjoyed the show. Still a very good show, but I just sit here and I think like, but should I really get all that invested if the people I really want to win the title are just going to hold it for a couple months and then lose it to the same 2 or 3 people over and over again? Like
Mm-hmm.
banana peel wrestling. So, yeah. Sort of a weird downer note to end for this show that I very much enjoyed, but
Yeah.
it's something we have to talk about, and it's something I think maybe that they're not, 5 years ago, this was a company where they were like, well, we want to put it on the best, the people that they like best, because it wasn't like you could be like, hey, come to this show. We've got great wrestling. Those shows 5 years ago, if you got 1 4-star match on a Tokyo Joshi show in 2017, you were like, this is one of their best shows. Now I'm like, if they have less than 2 4-star matches on these big shows, I'm like, oh, it's not that good.
Yeah. No, it's a disappointment.
Not as good as it
then.
usually was. So I think they're also not used to that. It's like the draw can also be, hey, the action's really great. It's people you like, action that's really great, and you don't have to just be like, okay, here's the 2 characters we think people want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So that is Tokyo Joshi Wrestle Princess 4. The other big show happening on October 9th was Stardom's Nagoya Golden Fight, happening in front of 1,315 people. Kelly, what were your thoughts overall on this show?
It was okay. Kind of boring. It's a weird Stardom show, and Mirai's in my favorite match.
This show, there's sort of now tiers of Stardom shows. Obviously, you have like house shows. Put those to the side for the moment. You have like big shows. Like the shows that you're like, they're really being hyped. They're going to have huge matches. They're going to have the biggest matches. You've got to watch these shows. Then there are the ones that are like, okay, we've got some interesting matches, maybe a couple matches we've sort of been building a little bit. That's very interesting. Okay. And then you sort of have shows like this, which to me feel like, oh shit, we've got a show. What should we put on the show? And look, they've got a talented roster. They can put fun matches together. But there's really no juice behind any of the matches besides like, hey, wouldn't this be a good match to see? And here sort of the hook of, oh, Kyrie's leaving again. Don't you want to come see her? It just feels to me, and it's funny because we've talked about this before about, I think they've gotten better from 2 or 3 years ago of having less of these type of shows. They still do pop up from time to time. But now a lot of the big conversation is some people saying, hey, the 5-star goes too long. And one problem of the 5-star is you're asking them to wrestle for 2 months, all these very difficult matches, as well as doing other shows.
Mm-hmm.
And the, Stardom account tweeted recently, they're like, wow, we're doing more shows than we've ever done. They did 70 shows in 2018, and I think right now they're at 144 shows.
That's way the fuck too much.
And I think it's very nice to be like, wow, we're doing more shows, but also think about, the wrestlers are being like, hey, we might want to chill on this And I think it would help everyone. I'm not talking about cutting 50, going back down to 70 shows, but I'm saying instead of, doing quote unquote 35 big shows, again, quote unquote, for a year, do 25. Instead of having every month doing 3 big shows, do 2. And it's like, oh, we won't draw, we won't do this, we won't do that. But I think it's going to make the shows themselves, each show, better, and then you may draw more at each show.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of asking the wrestlers, okay, you just got out of this grueling tournament, you're all exhausted, everyone is getting injured. They just announced Tom is going to be out some shows with a knee injury.
Oh shit, I missed that.
Yeah, because they forfeited the first tag league match. Instead of doing that, let them sort of recuperate, and I think the shows that you do will be better. Like, this show to me felt very much like we needed some matches. Here are some matches. The show sort of happened, it ended, and I just sort of thought, okay, sure. Like, that was a show. And I don't I much prefer the Stardom show where I leave thinking, oh, what great matches they had. Oh my God, I'm excited. Oh, I'm looking forward to the next show. Which was not this to me.
Nah.
So Kelly, did you watch the pre-show match?
No, I did not.
I did.
Wow.
And I'll say it was fine, and I have nothing else to report. It didn't exactly make me think, oh, on some of these big shows where I missed the pre-show match, I really got to get in there and watch it. It was fine. It was 6 minutes long. Amisore won 6-way match. It was fine. The high-speed title match, May Sierra finally winning the high-speed title, very deservedly, I would say, beating the champion, Saki Kashima. I thought the match was just fine. Again, only 6 minutes, but good to get the belt on May, who I think can start having those sort of fun, high-speed matches at the opening of shows again. And I like Saki, but I think there is a limited shelf life to these sort of like, haha, like meme wrestling, like, oh, I'm gonna get you with a roll up and I'm gonna do these goofy things. Like, with a title, I think there's sort of a limited shelf life with that, so to get out of it quicker, I think is better. And you put it on someone who's very talented.
Exactly. No, this was the right choice. I finally realized who May Sierra looks like to me. She looks like Sumi Sakai, but Sumi Sakai is like the version of May Sierra that was left out in the sun for a while.
I don't see that at all.
No?
No.
I think it's like their haircut more than anything. That's what kind of got me. But I was like looking at her, I'm like, who does she remind me of? And then I realized, like, Sumi Sakai is like the raisin of her.
Well, they are very differently, I don't know, I don't want to say, they're very differently aged.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, so you just put May Sierra in the sun for a bunch of years, and then Sumi Sakai pops out.
The next match was a singles match. Saori Anou defeating Azumi in 8 minutes and 38 seconds. For me, this was trending towards a sort of 3 3/4, 4-star match until the finishing pin. We talked about it, I think, last episode. It's like when she nails it, it looks really good. And when she doesn't nail that pin, it's like, ooh. Like, ooh, not quite, because then they sort of had to finagle and get around and get in position, and I was sort of like, it was a good match, but then all you can think about is, oh, that and didn't really go very well.
No. I thought it was funny that they put this on directly after the high-speed title match, where it's just like, yeah, this could have been a high-speed title match. Like, I don't know, I probably would have spaced those out a little bit.
This is what you will be seeing now that Main Sierra has the title.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, like outside of the finish, I thought this was great. I ended up still going 3 3/4 on it. It's like it was one of those like kind of like a perfect undercard match where it's like it was really, really good, but not good enough to overshadow everything else on the show.
The next match was a UWF rules match. Tsuri defeating Mina Shirakawa by knockout in 10 minutes and 45 seconds. Kelly, what do you think about this? What do you think about UWF rules matches?
I like them. I enjoy them. I like this style. I think it's fun that Siri does these every now and then. Just kind of gives something with a different feel to the show. I thought at first that Mina wasn't super suited to the style, but I think as the match went on, she did pretty well. I liked that Siri won by KO instead of just winning by points, which is I was kind of thought they were trending towards that. Because I mean, this is Siri's match; she should definitively win. So I was happy they did that, and then they did some stuff in the post match. But overall, I went 3.5 on it.
It's funny that you said about as the match got on, it felt like Mina got more comfortable because I felt like the second half of the match just felt like a wrestling match that they just had. Like they sort of did some quote unquote grappling at the beginning, and then in the second half, we're just like, we'll do a wrestling match and then you'll knock me out.
Yeah. I could see that.
It's so clear to me. Like I didn't think Mina was bad in any way, but it's so clear to me just watching them move around the ring that Tsuri is actually someone who did this, like who did MMA and like actual shoot fights based on the way she sort of moves and like kicks. Like Mina at times looked like she was like, okay, I'm sort of portraying this quote unquote shoot fight or whatever you want to say type wrestler. There was a moment early on where Tsuri did a head kick and it clearly was meant to be sort of in those moments when you're like, oh, we're feeling each other out. But she did a head kick that got very close to Mina's head, and Mina did not put her arm up. And I was like, if this had been a shoot fight, it would have been over in like 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like a very fast kick, and I was like, her head is open, and it would have been over. But I thought it was solid enough. I probably would be around 3.5, maybe slightly lower, because I still enjoyed it. I sort of like, I'm a UWFI guy. I've watched a lot of it. I like the sort of interesting twists on regular wrestling, so I enjoyed it. It was announced after the match, Shuri calling out challengers worldwide, and the challenge was answered by Alice Inc.
Just as we all expected.
Who is a Scandinavian wrestler, funny enough, who made her United States debut yesterday at Combat Fights Unlimited, which is a sort of shoot-style cage wrestling promotion here in the States. I watched a large portion of that show. I saw Alice Inc. She took on Kylan King, and I thought looked very solid, and I thought, oh, she would probably make for a fun opponent for Tsuri in a UWF rules match, so I'm looking forward to that.
All right.
There you go.
And we also got the creepy Dump Matsumoto video.
Yes, that's right. Which we'll be talking about for the upcoming shows, for the show that Kelly and I have been looking forward to for months now.
Yep.
The next match was the first of 3 title matches, the Artist of Stardom title match, the Donna Del Mundo champions of Julia, Mai Sakurai, and Tekla, defeating Maika, Megan Bain, and Suzu Suzuki in only 5 minutes and 37 seconds.
This was barely a match.
This was barely a match. This felt very much like storyline progression.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm kind of fine with that because cool. let's move things for once. We've been doing this Micah Goon stuff for like months now, and hey, something actually happened. Awesome. Like it was like I think the match itself was fun. They kind of just worked at a million miles an hour, and then it was done. So like what we got was enjoyable, but yeah, this was more of an angle than a match.
Yeah, Micah and Suzu not on the same page at all, and Micah storming
Yeah,
out at the end. Very
they
much storming
cannot
out.
coexist.
They cannot coexist. So I guess that dream is dead. Of this,
I did
of this
enjoy
new unit.
after Julia like stormed off after Micah. And my Sakurai starts cutting a promo, and she's like, "Oh, we should probably get out of here. It sounds like it's getting loud back there."
The next match was a Wonder of Stardom title match. The champion Mirai defeating the challenger Momo Watanabe in 15 minutes and 32 seconds. Kelly's favorite match of the show.
Yeah, I thought this rocked. For the most part, it was very just a no nonsense ass kicking contest. Like they beat the shit out of each other. And then it ended with Mirai kind of powering through Momo's constant attacks on her arm and still winning with the lariat. This was just like a super simple, super enjoyable match. I went 4 stars on it.
Yeah, I think we'll never ever get back to the Momo Watanabe, champion Momo Watanabe of many years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I don't. I guess knowing that, I don't mind have her come in. I think she had some good matches in the 5-star. I think this was good. Just coming in, she's still very talented, and having matches like this, which are enjoyable. Obviously was never going to win this match, but still able to have these enjoyable matches. And I hope that she continues to get those opportunities, because it just seems like she's either getting the opportunities and doing well, and I'm sort of like, this is great, or there's a period where she just sort of falls off the face of the earth and doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I hope she continues to get some of these opportunities, because she's very talented and had a good match here.
Hey, it's nice to be reminded that this Momo still exists.
Yes, exactly.
Like, hey, you're still in there. Thank you.
The semi-main event of the show, a 6-person tag team match. Kairi saying farewell to Stardom for the second time, teaming with Mayu Iwatani and Nanae Takahashi to defeat Hazuki Koguma and Saya Ida. Kairi said, "I'm not going out on my back."
Yeah, ain't gonna work for me, brother.
I'm big timing. I like the show. I like the match. It was fun, sort of meaningless because Kyrie's leaving. But really just like the end to this, just to me, incredibly unsuccessful return of Kairi Hojo.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I thought this match was just a big nothing. It's like here we are celebrating this incredibly lackluster run from Kairi before she heads back to the Fed, who seemingly are trying to make inroads into Japan again. So it's like, cool, she's joining the evil empire. Awesome. Love that.
It just
Ideally, she would have put someone over, but can't do that, brother. Like I wouldn't put a dud rating on this. Like I want to, but I objectively cannot. So my rating is me making the jerk off hand motion.
It just felt like to me that Kairi got back to Japan and sort of realized, oh, I actually don't want to do this.
Yeah, I would rather go back and have Nia Jax injure me more.
I guess going back and just thinking, okay, I'll go back, I'll get paid probably pretty well. And someone will just tell me each night, just go here and wrestle for 12 minutes. She is now 35.
Yeah.
So she's not young, but just a very large contrast between her and Sari in terms of people returning from WWE and sort of the path they take. Now, of course, Sari is still very young. But Kyrie, for many years in Stardom, was one of my favorite wrestlers in the world, and just came back and it never seemed like she was all that invested. It never seemed like the fans were all that invested. I mean, her final match here, and they drew 1,300 people, essentially 1,315.
Yeah. And when she came back initially, it felt like shit, she could be a game changer. Like she could bring a lot of eyes to this, and it just never materialized.
Yeah, so sort of just ends up feeling like a bummer.
Yeah.
And here, she wins, but doesn't matter because she's leaving.
Enjoy retirement again.
And then the main event for the World of Stardom title, Tom Nakano defeating Natsuko Tora in 21 minutes and 34 seconds. Kelly, what did you think of this?
Oh god, it was so boring. I think they actually both did work pretty hard here. But Tora isn't good enough to carry her end of things. And while she did work hard, it wasn't good work. I don't know. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. Like, I never watched this and I was like, oh man, this is a disaster. And, rubbing my hands like, haha, I wasn't the guy with my face pressed on the windows, like, with a shirt that says sicko on it. I was just like, this is not entertaining whatsoever. So I went 1.5 stars. I gave them that for putting in effort in this match that wasn't good at all.
Yeah, I actually thought Tora did pretty well once they sort of got out of the Oedo Tai stuff, but it just never really. I thought she had no chance, which she didn't win, obviously, but
Man, imagine if she won.
just not.
If they're just like, fuck, Tom's hurt, we gotta go with Tora.
Just not exciting to me. Not a match for me. So that was Stardom's Nagoya Golden Fight. What else has been going on? Just a few hours ago, I have not seen it yet, but it was the Stardom Tag League opening show. I believe they drew something like 800 fans, so not a huge draw there. A singles match. Michiko returns to Stardom, or returned to Stardom to take on Julia. And then they had a number of tag league matches there. What else has been going on in the world of Joshi? In SEAdLINNG, Ayame Sasamura and Riko Kaiju successfully defended their tag titles against La Pedida and Ka Kadida. In Ice Ribbon, Mifu Ashida became the number one contender to the Ice Infinity title, defeating Curie in that short number one contender tournament that they were having. In Diana had a Korakuen Hall show. The big news there: Double Inoue, Kyoko Inoue and Takako Inoue defeated Ayako Sata and Hanako Nakamori to win the tag titles. Kelly, what else happened in the last 2 weeks of Joshi?
Well, this isn't from the last 2 weeks. I had very much a moment of, oh fuck, what is time anymore? Like, I was gonna talk about this DDT match, and I was like, oh yeah, this happened like last week. No, it was September 23rd, and I actually had it in my notes to talk about on our last episode, but completely forgot I had watched it because I had Toy Fair brain. But this is DDT's Who's Gonna Top 2023 from September 23rd. The main event, KOD Openweight title match. Chris Brooks successfully defending his title against Saki Akai. This was great. I would really need to look back through her matches, but I think this may have been Saki's best match. She, was on her road to retirement. She threw everything she had at Brooks and really left no doubt that she could do this kind of main event epic. I went 4.5 stars on it. I really enjoyed it. And then the other day on the 12th, GCW had the World on GCW 2023 in Kurikan Hall. Main evented with a GCW Ultraviolent title match with Rina Yamashita successfully defending against Masha Slamovich. They sure did go through a whole lot of light tubes in this match. Super hard fought match. They really worked to a level to make this feel like a big deal match. It definitely was something they were very invested in making happen. Rina's been having a great year in GCW, and this was just another really strong match to add to that resume. I also went 4.5 on this one.
Great. So that is everything that happened in the last 2 weeks of Joshi. But what is coming up? The first thing coming up on October 18th, Natsu Sumire will be having her 10th anniversary show. The matches there, Natsu Sumire, Rina Yamashita, and Kaho Kobayashi will take on Takumi Iroha, Saki Akai, and Azumi. Sakura Hirota and Itsuki Aoki will take on Hazuki and Koguma. And Veni will take on X. That was supposed to be Utami, but Utami out injured, so now taking on a mysterious X. And speaking of mysterious, Stardom on the 29th will be having Halloween Dark Night House of Terror.
Yeah.
The matches so far announced, I believe they are going to be announcing more matches. There will be a tag league match on that show. Suri and Saki Kashima versus Risa Sera and Hiragi Kurumi.
They better make that spooky somehow, like drop a bunch of spiders in the ring or something.
They will be having a zombie rumble.
Hell yeah, they will.
Mina Shirakawa will be in a handicap match facing Dump Matsumoto and Zap.
Sure.
In a 2-on-1 match. Mirai will take on Halloween Mask.
Ooh.
Spooky. And speaking of spooky, Mayu Iwatani will be in a coffin match facing off against Crow A, Crow B, and Crow C.
What could be more spooky than being reminded of your own mortality?
By crows. So we'll see what happens here. It sounds like a very strange show.
I love gimmick Halloween shows. I'm very excited about this.
Interested to see if the crows in the coffin match, because it is a 4-way coffin match, so it is everyone for them, every crow for themselves. But I don't know if the crows will be affiliated with each other or just random crows.
I'm gonna be real upset if 2 of the crows turn out to be Nanae Takahashi and you.
Well, never say never.
No, I won't say never because it probably will be. Because Rossi just has his 4 ideas that he recycles on various napkins throughout his day. And so there's a real good chance that's gonna happen, but I don't want it to happen.
Oz Academy will be having their big show of the year at Yokohama Budokan on October 22nd. The card is as follows. Jaguar Yokota, Ram Kaichou, and Momoko Hanazono will team up to face Tsubasa Kuragaki, Itsuki Aoki, and Kaori Yonayama. Tsuji Ishikawa will team with Maika Ozaki to take on Suwama and Maya Yuki.
What are those teams? I love it.
Probably the biggest, or one of the biggest matches of the show, spinning out of Mayumi Ozaki winning the AAAW title from Mio Momono, will be Team Marvelous, Jagusa Nagayo, Tomoko Watanabe, and Mio Momono facing off against Osaki-gun, Mayumi Ozaki, Saori Ano, and Kakeru Sekaguchi in a elimination 6-person tag judgment chain death match. It will be a 3-on-3 elimination match. If it gets down to 1v1, it will then turn into a chain match. But all weapons are legal, so that should be a pretty crazy match. if Ozaki's
yeah.
previous big Oz Academy matches are anything to go by.
This show, I'll tell you right now, just based on these first 3 matches, this show's gonna rock.
The semi-main of the show will be a number 1 contender match for the tag titles currently held by Jaguar Yokota and Mayumi Ozaki, team 115. That will be Sonoko Kato and Ryo Mizunami versus Hiroyo Matsumoto and Zones versus Team 200 kilogram Chihiro Hashimoto and Yu. And then the main event for the Oz openweight title will be Akino taking on Takumi Iroha. So a fun show there, which I hope we will be able to cover on the next show, because the Oz shows, the big shows that they do every year, always deliver.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that one. Tokyo Joshi has their next Korakuen Hall show. They haven't announced the entire card yet, but what they have announced so far, Saki Akai versus Yuki Arai. There will be a battle royal to determine the number 1 contender for the International Princess title. The winner of that will get a shot at Max the Impaler on November 19th.
You think it's gonna be Palm?
It could be.
I think Palm has a real shot at winning that match.
Hikari Noah and Nao Kakuta will defend their recently won tag titles for the first time against Moka Miyamoto and Juria Nagano. Kelly, do you think there's a title change there?
Definitely not.
And in the main event, Miyu Yamashita will defend her recently won Princess of Princess title against the visiting Regina in that classic Gaijin invasion match.
How
Sendai
fucking
Girls,
wild would it be if they're just like, you know what? Put the belt on Regina.
yeah, let's put it on Regina.
Let's see how this goes.
Sendai Girls has 2 shows on October 20th and 21st. The 21st main event, Mika Iwata and Dash Chizako versus Seri and Sayori Ano, which should be fun. I always look at these
That's a cool
Sendai
match.
Girls shows and think, boy, I wish they uploaded their shows in a more timely fashion.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing this in March of next year.
And Ice Ribbon, Sumika Yanagawa and Misa Kagura will defend their tag titles on October 22nd against Ibuki Hoshi and Kaho Matsushita. And Kelly, what is going on in Choco Pro?
Choco Pro's got a show at Shinkiba coming up. It'll probably already have happened by the time you listen to this. Happening on the 16th. The show is called Back to New. The main event is the Asia Dream Tag Titles, with Best Bros taking on Kerry Oniyama and Hagane Shino in a battle of mixed tag teams.
All right. Well, that is everything coming up in the next 2 weeks of Joshi. So now I hand it over to Kelly for his usual show closing speech.
So yesterday, I, after months of on and off searching, finally managed to track down what is thought to be the most faithful fan edit of the Kill Bill Whole Bloody Affair, which, puts both of the movies together and makes it just one package. It was the Milkman Conspiracy edit. This was there's a bunch of different Whole Bloody Affair edits out there, but most of them try and throw in deleted scenes that were not in Tarantino's version of it. So this guy is just basing his edit off of exactly what people saw when they were shown this version at Tarantino's movie theater. So I downloaded that, and I'm very excited to watch it tonight. It also has, what I'm most excited about is the first Kill Bill volume. The big fight at the end is not in black and white in this version, because they sourced it from the Japanese Blu-rays.
Well, I have a story about that, which is that I did that manually in college.
Nice.
With a group of friends. I just had both movies, and we played them back to back, which is very long. It's like 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah, the version that I've got is 358, I think.
And we were watching with a group of friends, and about 15 minutes prior to the end, one of my friends stood up and was like, okay, I'm leaving. And we're like, but wait, we're at the climax. This is the climax of the 3.5 hours you've just watched. Don't you want to stay and see the climax? And she was like, no, I'm good, and walked out, and we couldn't believe it. We were like, it's almost like, this is the part. She's gotten to Bill. Like, this is it. And she was like, no, I'm good. Thank you. Goodbye. And it was wild.
Wild.
So I'll always remember that.
I can't imagine watching that much movie and then being like, you know what? I don't need this last 15 minutes.
Like, oh, I'm good. We couldn't either, but she did leave and didn't watch the rest. So that was that. But that was Kelly's final thoughts of our episode. And that is all for us for this week's episode of Jumping Bomb Audio. And we will be back to talk to you once again in 2 weeks. So until then, enjoy Joshi.
Enjoy Joshi. It's going to be a spooky time next time we talk. Woo!
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney. In every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.
Music. It's not just part of our daily lives, it's part of our wrestling fandom as well, and it has been for decades. That's where this show comes in. Music of the Mat, the podcast devoted exclusively to the music of pro wrestling, hosted by Andrew Rich. Hey, that's me. Each episode delivers a different topic with a variety of great guests, fun conversations, musical analysis, and of course, a heartfelt pun or two. New episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice. Check out Music of the Mat only on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.